Well, a very understated reaction, as you might expect from the Spanish papers after Atletico Madrid's heroics at Anfield. Glory it for Atleti and Diego Simeone's men. The reaction of Jurgen Klopp, though, has certainly prompted some interest. This is what he said about Atleti's style. When I see players like Koke, Sal and Llorente, they could play proper football and not stand in their own half and play counter-attacking football. He went on, didn't he, to really complain generally about the way Atletico went about playing. Is it a case of being a sore loser? Does it matter if he's a sore loser? Do you want your manager to be a sore loser, Stevie?
Well, of course you do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he's telling the truth. You know, listen, these two teams have spent the same, 300 million euros in the last 2 years. Both teams have spent the same money in 2 years. But look how one team plays and look how the other team plays. And you could say, well, the way Liverpool went about it at Anfield, any team would have to sit because they were forced back. But they did the same at home. At home, they did exactly the same. That tells you that that's the way this team plays. So if you want the truth, you heard the truth from Klopp. It get people behind the ball.
Is it anti-football, Shaka?
Yeah, it is. But it has been for quite some time from Atletico Madrid. This should come as absolutely no surprise to anybody. And listen, I totally understand Steve's point. He's right. When you spend the kind of money that both these clubs do, you expect a certain style of football. The issue for Atletico Madrid is who their manager is. It's one thing to ask Jurgen Klopp to get his team playing a certain way. It's another to ask Diego Simeone. He simply can't do it. That's not who he was as a player. It's not who he has been as a manager. He's tried to change this Atleti team to make them more appealing on the eye, but we saw how their season started. They couldn't get the balance right. They couldn't score goals as they were doing in pre-season and keep clean sheets, as they'd been doing over the last few years, especially with wholesale changes to what had become their established back four. So as much as Jurgen Klopp might complain, as much as he might be right, he shouldn't have been surprised.
Meanwhile, on British television, Liverpool legend Michael Owen, actually this was a tweet he put out, please spare me all this inevitable Simeone masterclass nonsense. There's nothing genius about putting 11 top-class footballers behind the ball. Liverpool absolutely pumped them throughout. Sid Lowe is with us. Sid, was it a Simeone masterclass, and what's the reaction been like in Spain and in Madrid?
It's so difficult to know where to start because I think there are so many different elements to pick up on here. And I feel like I should start with what Shaka was talking about, and I think he's quite right. This has been the debate at Atletico Madrid this year and indeed last year and perhaps even the year before about identity, about style, about what it is you expect from a team that is now spending the kind of money that maybe means that you can demand a different style of football. My problem, I think, with what Klopp said was the use of the word proper. I wouldn't have minded, I don't think, if he'd said, you know, they're not the kind of football I like, or they're very defensive, or they got very lucky. I wouldn't have minded those things, not least immediately after a defeat. And I'm very indulgent of managers and players post-game because there's a bit of me that thinks that from the outside, it's easy for us to ask them to be perfect and say the right thing. But they're frustrated, they're angry, they're upset, they've given everything and they've been beaten. And so I think a kind of a bad reaction is sort of normal. But as I say, it's that word proper. And I don't think you can dismiss a way of playing as being, if you like, ethically wrong or not real football. It's a different type of football and you can like it less, but I'm not sure it's fair to dismiss it entirely. Also, the other thing, and to pick up specifically what Michael Owen says, I think Michael Owen has kind of got a point. I'm not sure if it's expressed quite the right way, but I think he's kind of got a point when he says, please spare me this talk of it being a masterclass. There is a small problem with that, though, seen from a Spanish point of view at least, which is that nobody is really calling this a masterclass here. Nobody is saying that Atletico Madrid did this fantastic tactical job on Liverpool in the second leg. And I think it's worth pointing out that the two legs were different. Although there were some stylistic similarities, they were different in terms of the way they were played out. Everybody in Spain, including the Spanish media, that of course is celebrating Atletico Madrid going through, is seeing this as a miracle. They're seeing this as partly fortunate. All of the Spanish media today have all said, wow, Liverpool were brilliant. You know, this was genuinely a good performance from Liverpool. We're amazed that this has happened. So it hasn't really been framed in those terms that Owen is talking about.
It actually was a masterclass, but it was a masterclass of goalkeeping. from Oblak. That's
Yes.
what it was.
And let me tell you, for Stevie to say that, you know exactly how good Jan Oblak was.
That's what it was.
Here's my thing. As far as the criticism around Diego Simeone, Atletico Madrid, and to the point that Michael Owen is making or trying to make, I have no problem with you not liking Simeone or their style of football. I have no problem with you criticizing it. But be consistent. Don't talk about anti-football with Atletico Madrid and Diego Simeone and then turn around and praise Jose Mourinho when he does exactly the same with more money. Don't talk about he's a tactical genius when he parks the bus as well as anybody in football and wrote the blueprint. And then turn around and criticize Diego Simeone. Be consistent. Whatever you're doing, that's all I ask.
What's your feelings on Adrian, briefly, Shaka? Because he was a cult hero at West Ham.
Yeah.
But you can't have two quality goalkeepers at the same club, can you? You just can't.
Well,
not many teams do.
They don't, will be the argument. Listen, the trouble is, I know you're right. Adrian was absolutely fantastic for West Ham. But this is a step up and a showing. For those who think that just stick any player in goal, it's the same regardless of where you are, it shows when you step up in class and the expectation and how that pressure tells on ordinarily very good goalkeepers.
You got to wonder. Adrian started the season for Liverpool, and Adrian didn't look out of place at the start of the season. He had a run of games, and we're certainly, I know I was. I'm thinking, wow, this guy's been fantastic. I can't believe it. Now we've got two. If something happens to Alisson, now we've got a guy who can step in.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he stepped in and
stepped
twice.
Right in it. That's where he stepped.
Both games made an absolute mess of it and cost Liverpool maybe a Champions League.
I've said this before. It's a totally different mentality to being a number two than being a number one.
Right.
And expectation and what you can deliver yourself. And you're seeing that from Adrian. The step up in pressure, and I don't think he's ready to play at that level. I don't think he's ready to be a number two yet either.
So to turn it back to Madrid, Atleti, we're having a pretty torrid campaign by their recent standards in the league, in La Liga. So getting through this tie at Anfield, what might it mean for them, big picture?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it really is. Look, anyone beating the current champions, anyone beating a team that Simeone has already said will go down in history as one of the great teams, because he believes this is a team with more variety, with more different ways of getting at you than previously really great teams right the way through history. That would be huge anyway. But as you rightly so say, this is an Atletico Madrid team that right now isn't in a Champions League place. That season isn't convincing at all. In a season where Madrid and Barcelona have been poor and maybe there was an opportunity to win the league and they've allowed that to slip away from them, this is huge. And now, of course, people are looking at this and saying, well, if they knocked out Liverpool, there are only 4 games to go to a final now. This is not impossible.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.